As soon as our sealant is installed into the tire, natural centrifugal force from the tire turning spreads the sealant automatically around the tread area, automatically waiting and standing by to protect against any punches in the tire. As soon as air tries to escape, our proprietary particles and a magical formula rushes over to the hole and creates a natural kind of a beaver dam and automatically seals the puncture. You've never heard of anything like this before, because this stuff is truly amazing. In fact, you've heard of bulletproof vests stopping bullets in its tracks. Well, we take that exact same fibers that are inside a bulletproof vest, and we've installed it with other secret proprietary ingredients, and we've added it to our sealant. This way, we know that when those fibers seal up and block the hole, it is a permanent plug, because these fibers are 5 times stronger than steel. And this is what creates a permanent plug on the fly. Let's take a look at how this magic works. Here we are jamming a 15mm spike into a tractor tire, and after just a short revolution of the tire, the sealant rushes to the hole and instantly seals it. In this truck tire here, we can see that we are similarly eliminating up to 99% of punches on the fly. I mean, look how we absolutely jamming these spikes into the tires. Multiple punches, and automatically, as soon as it's turned, it seals it up. That's the size of a 10-cent coin, immediately being sealed. And that's a lot bigger than what most of the spikes out there and nails and so on are experienced on the roads. And of course, if it has a tire, we can protect it. It helps in all kinds of industries, golf carts, motorbikes, and anything above, doing miraculous work to stop punches on the fly. We are talking about our premium tire sealant product. It's important not to compare it to inferior products on the market who go about using cheap ingredients and cheap strategies to get the same solution, which of course does not work. One of the ingredients, in fact, is a product called latex. Now, latex is the stuff that they make rubber gloves out of. So what happens to a rubber glove? It's not sticky, it dries, and this is what happens inside the tire. It effectively dries and becomes like glue. In fact, glue is another product that they also use, adhesive glue to glue the hole shut, which of course you can imagine is a terrible idea because sometimes you can't even get the tire off. The second problem is that a lot of these ingredients are poisonous. Ethylene glycol and a bunch of other things are really, really dangerous and in actual fact can cause harm to humans, in fact, even kill you. So you should really not even be handling or touching those products at all. And of course, let me not get onto the problem if you're allergic to latex, because even handling the product or dealing with a tire that has got a little bit of a leakage can be a serious bodily condition, and nobody wants health and safety issues at their workplace. And then, of course, the other big thing is this hardening factor and drying out factor is something that we would never want you to have, because the moment it dries, it's not doing its job. So anybody tells you otherwise, that is not the strategy that we employ. The solution must remain a liquid solution at all times to do its job. So any sealant that is hardening inside the tire, it's a big mistake. Our product does not harden for the life of the tire, and it does not harden in a closed airtight vessel. So safe for you all the time. Back to this painful fuel cost issue. Let's see how we're going to challenge it and how we're going to take care of it for you. Well, it's one of those areas that is very, very difficult indeed to even get a minor improvement. In fact, a lot of the solutions out there in the industry cost a lot and often will only get you a saving of 0.25% of your fuel bill, or maybe 0.5%. We can offer you much more than that. And the reason is because it's actually linked to a funny thing called rolling resistance. Let me show you what I mean. As we can see in this illustration, we'll notice that the tire is actually deformed. In the front edge, we've got a compressing factor. It's a mechanical process. And as the tire exits on the back end, that tire rubber expands. That process is actually almost gluing itself down to the road and is keeping its traction very heavily connected with the road. This rolling resistance factor is what actually causes a vehicle the challenge to actually get moving and to get started. We probably all remember back from when we were young and we jumped onto a bicycle and our tires were a little flat. And we couldn't quite fathom at that point why it was so hard to pedal. And I mean, you probably can remember what I'm speaking about. As soon as we put tire pressure into that tire, the tire inflated. There was no more of that over-exaggerated deforming. The tire now was round, and suddenly you felt like Superman and you took off on your little bicycle. Well, this is exactly the same as every vehicle. Now you can imagine you don't only have two tires on a truck or on a fleet vehicle, you've got a number of tires, and even if just one of those tires is deflated by even just 4%, it requires an extra 1% of extra fuel to be used because the engine now has to work harder to move that vehicle off of its standing point or to keep it moving. So why is it such a challenge to keep our tire pressure at manufacturer's recommendations? Well, this is because there's a fancy thing called tire porosity. And that simply means that air molecules are so small that they can, over time, start moving through the rubber of the tire. So this means even if you have no punctures, nothing wrong with your tire, brand new tire, it will eventually lose tire pressure. And so this is why when I hear some clients tell me that they only check tire pressure every month or 2 months or even 3 months, it is really a recipe for a lot of fuel loss. So let's also look at things like rim or bead leaks. This is something that can happen quite easily, and the sealant also rushes over to any leaking area and obviously seals it. And of course, it's a very difficult, time-consuming job, and time is money, as we know, to take a driver out of their circulation and before they get started to have to go around and check on tires and so on, where really he could check it right now as an example and he could drive over a nail within the next 2 minutes and you'll still have the puncture and you'll still have a reduction in absolutely correct tire pressure, resulting in more rolling resistance and resulting in that engine working harder and using more fuel. We can often see when we do measurements, it'll go from 10.63 kilometers per liter to 8.63 kilometers per liter. That's a loss of around 2 kilometers per liter, or about 18% loss on every liter that you consume. You can see how when we promise up to 15%, in this particular case of 18%, it's very achievable. While rolling resistance and tire pressure, at least optimum tire pressure, is top of our minds, let's actually talk about how we lose so much of our tire life due to incorrect, unregulated tire pressure. We'll see in this diagram right here, we can see that an optimally pressurized tire has no incorrect deformation. That means that the tire sits perfectly on the road and it will give you best handling and best tire life. If we look at the next tire, we can see this is a rapid case of overinflation. This tire has now gone in the opposite direction, which is to be overinflated. The outer tread is now off the road and we've only got a central area. This is the one that attributes to most of your tire loss, but not only tire loss, but also poor handling and the potential for that tire coming off the bead or coming off the rim, resulting in horrific blowouts and tire accidents that affect a lot of our vehicles out there on the road. If a tire is just 5% lower in its tire pressure, it results in a loss of up to 8% of its tire life. And in fact, through our studies, we've seen that if we find one tire on a rig that is underinflated, in 80% of the times, we find at least 2 or more tires that are also underinflated. And this is why we know that we can see savings once the sealant is in your vehicle of anywhere up to 5, 10, 15, and even 25% savings. So if you are doing 100,000 kilometers in a year, you would be talking about getting an extra 25,000 kilometers. I know that by now you'll be able to see the massive improvements that you can see on your bottom line. And in our 5-star promise, we eliminate up to 99% of your punctures. We also extend up to 25% of your tire life. Savings on your fuel up to 15%. Safe to the environment, safe to your hands, safe to your installers. Nobody's going to get injured by coming in contact with our premium sealant. Our passion really lies in making sure that our clients stay on the road, wheels turning, and jobs getting done. And we just want to be saying to you right now is reach out to us, because we are excited to show you the possibilities of the solution. We can obviously answer any questions that you might have, or even give you a quotation just to give you an idea of how this would work out for you.